Hello, BookTube, it is me, it is Monty, and I am back again today with the start of another video. Today's video, I think, is going to come in two parts. I'm going to do a part now, and I'm going to go away. I'm going to come back later on tonight, and maybe there'll be a part, no, not maybe, there will be a part two. That's just going to be a thing that's going to have to happen today. I don't know what time it is. I think it's around... I have a computer right here. It is 10:45, and ideally, I think I want to make a library run today. I'm not sure how realistic it is for me to check out physical library books when I haven't read a physical library book in months, like at least since October. But I'm going to try, go to the library, see what's out there. If nothing else, it'll at least give me, I'll see what is out there, and I'll maybe have inspiration of things to pick up on audio or an ebook. I don't know. I was just telling my patrons in the update that I was filming for them that part of I think the only goal I want to bring into 2024 is, as much as I love audiobooks, and they're not going away because I'm going to have to listen to audiobooks while I'm at work to pass the time, or like a podcast. But as much as I love those, and those are never going to go away, I do think I could be better about reading with my eyeballs a little bit more. But I do want to come in with a little bit of a book haul. Yesterday, I picked up Guy's Girl by Emma Noyes. Emma Noyes, or Noyes? Sorry, girl, I did not look up how to pronounce your name. But they emailed me probably about a week ago and said that I might be interested in their book. And it's like the holiday season, and I just did not want to wait for it to come from Amazon or for them to like ship it to me. And to be honest with you, I just saw the email really late. I do that a lot when I'm looking at my emails. I'll see things pretty late. And so I just would feel very awkward emailing back and be like, yeah. But I was at the bookstore yesterday trying to kill some time before I had to go to work, and I noticed it on the shelf. So I said, you know what? The author emailed me. One of the books in the email sounded like a book for me. I think it was like Sorrow and Bliss, which is a Monty book. I did appreciate that last year. And then the other book that they said, one second, I can probably pull up this email. Romantic comedy. Romantic comedy is not a Monty book. I read it. I was not a fan of it. It was very much not a romance. And to be honest with you, Sorrow and Bliss is also not a romance. Like, that is a book about a woman who is suffering from a mental illness and is going through a divorce and is not coming out the other side necessarily all the best. Like, it's really about how she is kind of fucked over everyone else in her life. And her husband has been there and is like, you know what? I just cannot put up with this anymore. Like, I cannot be here with you. I can't do this. And so it's her like kind of reflecting and, getting treatment and all that kind of a thing. And so the fact that this was picked up by Berkeley, which isn't that the same? Doesn't Berkeley also publish? What is the name of that book? I want to say they also did You Made a Fool of Us with Your Beauty, because I would say that this is definitely giving literary fiction, kind of like it's giving like pop literary fiction, like commercial fiction, but not quite that commercial, even though it is published by Berkeley. But this is giving me kind of that kind of a vibe. Although, to be fair to You Made a Fool of Us with Your Beauty, eventually it just became full commercial fiction, and it was, even though it wasn't a book for me, like it was definitely for the streets. Like, that book is for the streets. This book, I feel, is in that gray zone where it's attempting, like, there are some sentences in this that I think are like definitely you need to be underlining and highlighting, and that's only in the first 50 pages I've read. 65 pages I've read. Well, I probably read page 66 because it was pretty short. That's the other thing about this book, is these chapters are sometimes like not even a full page. Sometimes they're just like a couple of pages. So it's really easy to get through. We do get technically both perspectives. We are following Jenny, who works for a beer conglomerate in their marketing department, and then we're following Adrian, who works as I want to say financial analyst, but he works at like Goldman Sachs. He's a banker man person working with numbers and facts and figures. And they kind of moved in a similar circle in their college years. Like, Jenny was friends with this group of guys, and Adrian was kind of friends with those people, and they meet when Jenny is visiting New York. I think it's just like she's just visiting. I don't think there was anything else happening, but to be honest with you, something else could have been happening. And she was like, let me go to New York. I know that she was hating living in the Twin Cities, and she wanted to leave the Twin Cities. And so she was like low-key desperate for an escape. And after the first couple of chapters, she leaves the Twin Cities and she moves to New York into Adrian's old bedroom, because Adrian, when their lease was up, he moved out into his own studio apartment. So it's kind of a romance between the two, but just based on the comp titles that the author gave me, I'm not expecting it to be a full-blown romance. I'm expecting it to be kind of a bittersweet, but also both of these people are kind of dealing with their own issues. Emma's eating disorder, her disordered relationship with food is front and center. there's an author's note at the beginning where the author is very upfront and honest about the fact that they also struggle with some disordered eating in their life, and so they're pulling from that and their own experiences, their own recovery journey. So in some ways, it also reminds me of Mary H.K. Choi's Yoke, which I don't think I went into this book expecting the disordered eating to be front and center. So I was not fully prepared for that, because that is like, there aren't too many things in books that I don't know, like really hit a little too close to home or whatever. But disordered eating, that's one of them. So I would not go into this one with that fully in mind, but I appreciated the storytelling in that one. And this one, I was at least prepared for that a little bit. So far, I'm really enjoying this, and I've been reading it pretty quickly. I only read for like 20 minutes yesterday, and I got through 60 pages. So I do appreciate that. I haven't seen a lot of buzz about this. I think it only has like 200 ads on Goodreads. My goal for today would be to finish this, but I don't know how realistic that is, because I'm simultaneously reading this sad little Colleen Hoover book for the patrons. So I definitely need to read that, but I do also want to read this. And today's like my only day off this week. Well, it's my last day off this week, because on, what was it, Sunday and Monday, I didn't do any kind of physical reading. So I really just shot myself in the foot there. But I think if I were to focus on one of the books, I could finish this one just because it reads so quickly. I'm probably going to take this with me on my little bus ride, because I think I can knock this out in my own time, just doing some reading sprints. But my goal for today, like I said, is to run to the library, come back, do a little library haul, hopefully give an update on this. And if not, I don't think I'll finish it by the time I get to the library, but I think I could finish it by tonight. I think I could finish it by the time I want to get this video uploaded, because technically I've been uploading my videos a little bit earlier than 10 o'clock, but 10 o'clock Central Time is always my goal. So I'm going to do that. Tomorrow, I do have to go to work, so I really should be trying to focus on getting a video ready for tomorrow, but that's going to be future Monty's problem. If I do finish this pretty late in the night, then I might just save my final review for tomorrow's video so I have something to talk about. Or I might, at some point, I also want to talk about the Tova trips, because everyone and their mother is getting one these days, and I just need the girls to stop acting like they are accessible. And I feel like that's kind of the problem here. I think that as big as BookTube is, maybe we'll just do that now. Let me slip into my Tova trip discussion, which I have talked about. The patrons have to be sick of me and my opinions on them, because I feel like they come up in every other sprint that we do with me, or when I'm sprinting with Aaron, because it feels like every other day there's some new booktuber who's out here going on a Tova trip. And to be upfront and honest with you, I'm not upset that the girlies are out here chasing a bag, getting a bag, going on these little adventures. I'm not an adventurer, okay? I'm not Ellie from Up. I don't want an adventure in the Great Wide Somewhere. I'm not Belle. That's not me. That's not what I want to do. I view, my relationship with my audience on my channel very differently. Like, I keep things about the books over here. And so it just doesn't make any sense for me to care about your little traveling plans. Like, I don't really care what you do in your free time. Like, that's cute that you have hobbies and you want to be an adventurer. That's not really me. Doesn't align with my mission. Doesn't move me. So I do, for the most part, block it out and ignore it, because I just know that I would never drop $3,000 to go on one of these little trippy trips. But also, I think we need to acknowledge the fact that these trips are like $2,000 or $3,000. And I think the part of it that the first thing that bothered me back in the day when these things first started popping up was I feel like they were not being very transparent about the fact that they were being paid. Like, it was very weird and very shady. It was giving 2010 BookTube, where people were not disclosing the fact that, the Book of the Month sent them a check, that these publishers were sending people these books. Like, it was just very wild, wild west. And it's like, I understand there's a trip and it's different, but I feel like it's very strange that you are not acknowledging the fact that you're being paid for the time that you are, for all the, part of it is, for all the shucking and jiving, because if you don't get your little 10, 15 people to confirm the trip, you're not going nowhere. So, like, they do earn it a little bit. So, love that for them. But aside from that, we finally are in an area where people are, being upfront and honest about the fact that they're being compensated for, taking people on these trips or whatever. But now we're in the area where everyone and their mother who is going on these trips is still trying to, like, act as though it's affordable to the general populace. Every time I get sent a little Instagram story of one of these people putting up their question boxes, because again, you got to do the shucking and jiving. And so that obviously means you have to answer people's questions. And it's just like, here's the thing. Of the benefits of the Tova trip, which really, or Trova, whatever the name is, I think I say Tova, but it's not actually the name of the company. Or the little trippy trips. The benefit obviously is it's a group experience. Like you get to go with, 10, 15 people, 20 people, whatever it is. Love that for you. Love that for you. But it is a service. So the fact is, it's definitely an upcharge. Like if you just wanted to go on a trip internationally, just by your lonesome, you would definitely spend less money. You just like let's like that's just the truth. Like that's very simple. I'm not even upset about like the fact that like your flights aren't included and that most meals aren't included. But I think that the way that people try to be selling these trips is just a little bit silly to me. It's just a little bit silly to be like, yeah, what they do give you 6 breakfasts. They do give you 5 breakfasts. Breakfast for the trips are included. Okay. So I think that instead of trying to make it sound like, oh yeah, your $3,000 is going far, we should just acknowledge the fact that you have to be a certain person to go on this trip. You've got to be. I think that that's kind of the problem here. I think that most booktubers, they get put on not necessarily just because of their opinions on books, but because in a general level, someone is relating to you. I think I was watching one of Kenya's videos the other day, and she was also talking about influencers and influencer culture and how there are just some things that, rich people have that you are just not going to be able to afford. And I feel like these trips are one of them. And I think that that's kind of where all these booktubers are losing me in their shucking and jiving to get people to, confirm their reservation. It's not that, oh, you can pay in, 5 easy installments of $700 or whatever the case is. It's that y'all are acting as though this is, again, affordable. And it's just not. Just be upfront and honest with the people. Like, it's a big commitment. It is an experience, not only is it like a week or whatever, you're going all these excursions, you're there with a group of people, like whatever you can put a price on that experience is what you can put a price on that experience. I'm not saying that these books, I don't think that my general annoyance at the beginning was like, y'all are not disclosing the fact that you're being paid for this. Like, that's weird. And now it's moved into the part where it's just like, you were trying to make something that is inherently not relatable feel like a relatable experience or an accessible experience. And some things are just not accessible to your audience. And I think that that is hard for the booktubers because you got put on by being relatable. Like, anybody can go out to their local Books A Million and get this book, or most people can go out to, not everybody, but most people can go to the Books A Million. Most people can go to a library. Most people have access to Guys Girl. They have access to Yoke. Like, they have access to these books that we're all reading. Like, the barrier to entry into a general booktube discussion about the content that we make is very simple. Like, we're all talking about books, okay? By one means or another, most people can finagle a way to getting access to a book. And even that, again, as a little bit, obviously there's going to be tiers to that, how readily available, what is available, again, is going to vary. But acting as though everyone just has $3,000 to drop on a trip and then has an extra $1,000 to spend. I mean, $1,000 is going to be very generous, for food for 7 days or whatever. But even then, like, if you are constantly on Twitter and you are constantly seeing that people do not have $500 for an emergency, then I think that we should stop getting on Instagram trying to get people to book your trip talking about it's actually affordable. I mean, obviously international travel is already going to be an expense regardless of like who was able to do that in the first place. But like, let's not try and dumb it down here. Let's not try and act as though this is just some readily accessible thing that we can all just jump on the plane and go do together. Like, no, just be honest. I would respect the girlies more if they just got on these little question box and be like, look, it is a lot. It is a lot of money. It's an investment. It's an experience. And not everyone is going to be able to partake in this. It's just not going to happen. Like, I'm sorry. I wish that it was. I wish that it wasn't so cost prohibitive. But for what the event is, this is it. I also would feel maybe some of this, like, oh, it's so affordable, is annoying to me because I've seen some of the emails from some of the people that get offered these sponsorships. And so it's just like, so like seeing the back end of that and then seeing you get on Instagram and acting as though like, oh, it's all hunky dory. Everyone like, sure, Sue Ellen. Sure, this is just such a readily accessible feature for all of us to go do. And again, like, I'm not pressed about it because you're not going to get me to go to some foreign country with a bunch of people I don't know. It's not going to be me. You're probably going to get me to go to a foreign country with people I do know. You're probably not getting me to leave the house. So I'm not really invested in it. I'm just like, I'm chuckling and I keep seeing these trips pop up. And I'm also just like, the BookTube community is only but so big. Like, So part of me is also like curious to see like how many trips are these booked, like how many different booktubers can really support the trips, like how many people can really get these trips booked and continue to get them booked. So I'm also interested to see how that's playing out and to see who's going to be successful in that endeavor, because right now it feels almost like when Book of the Month launched their YA thing and they had all the girlies on YA booktube getting YA book of the month boxes, and then they ended unceremoniously, and hardly any of them little girlies got transferred over to be regular book of the month paid people. And that's kind of what this feels like. Is like all of you are getting the opportunity to maybe do this, but how many of those trips are actually going to get booked? And then how many people, after doing all that shucking and jiving on Instagram, after, constantly reminding people in their community tabs and in their YouTube videos, how many of those people are still going to, at the end of this, all of that, are we going to see actually go on these trips? I feel like that's the most embarrassing thing, is like after you were doing all of that, carrying it on, did we actually get to see you go on this trip? Or did you have to actually just fund the trip yourself and save some money? I don't know. So that'll be interesting for me to see. But I'm going to go. Like I said, I need to run to the library. So I'll be back with that. And hopefully I'll be back with more thoughts on Guy's Girl by Emma Noyes. So far, my only complaint is that Jenny does give I'm not like other girls energy. Like, I don't know if I like that. But other than that, I'm having a good time. So I'll be back with my thoughts on this later on tonight. What is up? So I literally just sat here for a good 10 minutes talking about Guy's Girl and everything that I was really liking about it, and how I had, read this physically. I read 100 pages on my little walk to the bus stop, and I went to click the stop recording button, and I hadn't recorded any of that. Also, I feel like the white balance is off. It could just be because it's the HP monitor, but that looks a little bit better. So that is bothersome. But for the record, I have really been enjoying Guy's Girl. Like I said, I read another 100 pages. This is not a book that I could recommend to just anybody. I wouldn't say that all of you need to rush out and read this book, just because it really is a book. So this is not a light, fluffy stroll through the contemporary romance streets. Jenny is definitely in where I'm at, is in the throes. She is in the thick of it. She is down deep. She is down bad, so bad. She don't even know how bad down she is. But she is right now being just like swirling in her disordered eating habits, thinking that she has the control of it, that it is not controlling her. She is in that stage of her bulimia journey. And so a lot of the book, from where I was right now, is just her. We're following her on this like binging and purging cycle. Although she isn't really viewed as binging. So I will say that she's probably not binging, but she is definitely purging. Okay. She's purging at least once a day, sometimes twice a day. And we are on these little journeys with her as she is doing it. How she is just like, she has mastered the art of the purge. It's just like her body and the purge are one. And I feel like I didn't realize I had that video unpaused. Anyway, the body and the purging are one. She has it down to, it's with ease. She is able to do it. And I feel like it's in those moments of the book is in the literary bag. And so we have her doing that while also, I don't want to say chasing. Chasing, I feels like a very strong word, but she is pursuing a romantic relationship with Adrian. They've been on a couple of dates. They've been intimate a couple of times, but in her mind, she is always in this position of being the person who is more interested than the other party. Like, she feels as though it is like, I don't want to say a constant stream of rejection, because it's not like she's out here, pursuing people left, right, and center. But when she does pursue people, she feels that she is on the receiving end of rejection, and that she's just not enough for people. And so I do feel like that's probably playing into some part of her disordered eating habits, and how she has also just like never really been able to stack up against her sister Heather, and how her and her sister Heather are like polar opposites, and how she has always wanted to fit in and be one of the guys. There's a lot going on in Jenny's life. And I appreciate, y'all know that I really like romances where there's a lot of stuff going on. This one, I definitely feel like there's so much going on that the romance at the core of it, like this attraction, the magnetism between Jenny and Adrian, is almost like a C-tier plot. Like, this is definitely, again, I understand why the comp titles that, Emma Noyes sent me were romantic comedy. and Sorrow and Bliss. I get it. Okay, now I would say this is a little bit better than romantic comedy. I feel like Kirstenfeld was further afield, but here I definitely can see that there is at least a magnetism between Jenny and Adrian. And Adrian specifically is in a position where he comes from a very different family structure than Jenny did. Adrian was born in Hungary. He didn't really have a lot of time with his father. His father died when he was young. And then his mother seemed to get like a green card marriage. Like whatever she was doing, we got like kind of an explanation for it. And it sounded like she spent her life savings to get this man in Indiana to marry her so she could get a green card and like bring her sons over. Not her sons, her children over. She has like one son, one daughter. To bring them over and they would all be in Indiana. And then when she finished, or he would pay for it all, and then she was paying him back. When she finished paying him back, they got a divorce, and he just like left these people for dead. And so he is in a position where he isn't trying to be vulnerable with people. He's not really looking for a relationship at all. He's not trying to put himself out there to be open to that, because to him, he feels as though like love can't be that great. And if it is that great, then I would know it. It's going to be like this instant spark, not something we have to like build. And so like he is drawn to Jenny for reasons that like he is like trying to fight low key, but he is continuing to allow her in ways that he hasn't let other people in. So I feel like the romance is really in a large part of the way coming from Adrian's perspective, which I think is interesting, or at least different from you personally, because I usually feel, at least in the romances that I read, where it's either like a mutual thing or the woman is just like, yep, we're going to make this happen. And the guy's just kind of like going along to get along, Mr. Oblivious. And while I don't think that's, entirely distrue here, I definitely think that Jenny is also pursuing this and also pursuing it in a way that Adrian is not. I think that at least in terms of like the narrative heft or whatever, it does feel as though most of the romance, when we are getting that, is more of like an A-B plot instead of like a C plot. It's in the Adrian pages of the book. And then sometimes we get, glimpses of it from Jenny's perspective, because she is definitely a person who is willing to be in a relationship in a way that Adrian is just kind of like, I'm not a relationship girly. Right now we're in this situation where she has moved to New York. He is trying to move out of his current position at Goldman Sachs. He's trying to move over into something at Disney. So he's in the interviewing process for that. And I still like it. Like, it's definitely still giving literary and not, just regular romance. Berkeley is a weird little place. I feel like Berkeley publishes a little bit of everything, which I don't know. Penguin has so many imprints that, like, I guess it kind of makes sense because all of their imprints seem to be doing a little bit of something. But I feel like Guys Girl would be better served almost at like a Dutton and not so much a Berkeley. I don't know. They don't pay me. I'm not out here, in publishing, but this almost reads more like something that I would read at Dutton. It fits more in with like your natural beauties of the world, your forces of such beauties of the world. Guys Girl, I feel like fits in over there. Maybe because this is like technically there is a central romance. I understand why it's here, but I don't know. I just feel like this would I don't know. And it's not even like Dutton is out here doing more marketing for the books. It's not like anybody read The Forces of Such Beauty last year. So at least Berkeley, they attempt to do some marketing for the things that they acquire. So far I am enjoying this, and it is, I don't want to say restoring my faith in literary romance, because I don't really read a lot of literary romance. And the one time I did, romantic comedy, it didn't work for me. So I guess the second time also, what was that? You Made a Fool of Depth with Your Beauty. That didn't work for me either. So we're like 2 for 2, like 0 for 2 in terms of literary romance. But I finally found a literary romance that's for me. And according to the back of the book, they got another book coming out soon, How to Hide in Plain Sight, also from Berkeley. So where I'm at right now, at 160 pages in, I would read In Plain Sight. But for now, I'm going to go, because now it's even later. It is now 3:20. So I have even less time, and I want to finish this. So I have about 192 pages of this left, and I want to finish this for the patrons. So I have a lot of reading to do. I will be back when I have finished Guys Girl. Hopefully today's video will still go out on time in a timely fashion, but I will see you guys then when I have done that. I have more to say. What is up? If it wasn't for the fact that I'm currently live streaming with my phone as my webcam, I would tell you the time, but it is 7:06. And not only did I finish the book I needed to read for my patrons, the Colleen Hoover, which was A Trip to Hell, like holy Jesus, and never getting any of that time back, I finished Guys Girl by Emma Noyes. Noyes, I'm sorry, Emma. You emailed me. It was very nice of you. I do not know how to pronounce your last name. I did not look into it. I probably should have before I made this video. This book, this one right here, this book, go read it. Go read it. Now, I'm going to say that. But again, remember, a lot of this book, a heavy chunk of this book is dealing with our main character, Jenny's eating habits and her disordered relationship with food. And so just know that it's going in there. You cannot get around it. It's like a very much a focus. That was a horrible sentence. But it's very much a central point of the book, and it colors the relationship that she has with all the characters in the book, including her love interest, Adrian. And so if that is something that you are not in the right headspace to read, this is not going to be the book for you. But at the end of the day, this is easily a 4-star read. Happy that I was able... and it's definitely like a 4 leaning 5. I'm going to let it marinate a little bit before I get onto Goodreads and start like writing that review. But this is good. This is good end of year content right here. Thank you to the email. This has never crossed my radar all year, and I'm going to be thinking about it for the rest of the month. But what I really liked about this was it was like a literary romance that worked. In my mind, this is for like a similar audience to Tia Williams's, what is that book? 7 Days in June. 7 Days in June. Just because like I also feel like that was a romance that had like some heavier topics, you know, because that was teenagers. I mean, I feel like most of that book happens in flashback, where it's those teenagers and they're like, that week they spent together, they're drug-fueled passion that led them to be together, which obviously it's not quite the same in this one, but I feel like just in terms of like heavy subject matter and a romance happening, I feel like maybe an audience that read T. Williams's 7 Days in June would also like this. That also I feel lent a little literary. It also dealt with a main character who was working in publishing. This is a character who was writing, who was, you know, kind of getting some sort of catharsis through her writing towards the end of the book. And so like that has a similarity. There's overlap there. It's also, I feel like, a romance in the similar vein to You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty. But again, it's not quite as, I don't want to say lighthearted. I feel like Fool of Death was still a little bit serious. It leaned a little literary, and this, I think, just goes full literary. It fully embraces the literary aspect of the romance, so it does kind of toe that line, and it's really, I think, the Adrian chapters, like I was saying earlier in the day, it really does help strengthen that romantic core, and the way the book ends really strengthens that romantic core. It just gives you, I want to say, like early 2000s, like a pre-TSA romance ending, which it worked for me. I just really like this book. I like Jenny as a character. I like getting to see her evolution and growth. I liked Adrian. I liked how supportive he was. I liked how he had his own thing that he was working through in his own time. Both of the characters have their own little things that they were working on their own time, while also working toward being together and like finding peace within themselves so then they could be together. This is really good. It was just like, I don't really have anything negative to say overall. It's really just like, that's why I'm kind of leaning like maybe it is a 5-star. Like maybe it is. I think that at the beginning there was a lot of like not other girls energy coming from Jenny, and I think that's really why I was leaning towards more of a 4 and less of a 5. But as the book went on, I really think that we were able to explore what it meant for Jenny to be, you know, the one woman in this group of guys, and why that was for her, and the relationship that she had. It was like a very similar dynamic with her own family. And so when her sister actually came into the story, I was really happy that it was her sister that was the familial connection. And we were getting to see some of that also healing and seeing how each of them had perceived the other and the family dynamics. I could write a whole book about that just on its own outside of the romance. So overall, like I said, like this book has flown under the radar. It doesn't have that many ads on Goodreads. I haven't seen too many people talk about it. I understand that the year is kind of wrapping up. People are either revisiting old favorites or getting to books that they had, you know, missed in the shuffle over the course of the rest of the year, and like clearing out their TBR, getting ready for a fresh start in January. And I feel like this is it's really heavy. It's not like a perfect thing. It's not like a light start to your year, but you know, this is definitely a book to keep in mind. I did wind up reading the excerpt, which I don't always do, for How to Hide in Plain Sight, which is coming next from Emma. And I will be reading that. The next book seems to be dealing with much more of like a family dynamic. They seem to be like again, wealth. I love a wealthy book. I love people who come from opulence. And they seem to have a daughter. They seem to be kind of like a Pfizer family, but not Pfizer. So love that. But their daughter, who I think we're going to be following in this book, seems to have like tried to strike out from the rest of the family because she's significantly younger than a lot of her siblings, and she's going home for a reunion of some kind, and they kind of leave her behind. So I'm gonna read it. I did like the excerpt. It was like it seemed like it was a prologue and part of a chapter. So, and it definitely felt like this main character has a very different voice than Jenny. So it's not like I'm seeing the author write the same thing. I'm already seeing some versatility. I'm already connected. So, Emma Noyes, thank you for emailing me. Never would have picked this up without you. So, love that. Love this. And thanks for being here today. As I read that, I don't know what I'm going to be talking about in tomorrow's video, but I'll be talking about something. So, I'll see you guys then. But until then, and until next time, bye.